In the last lesson, we learned about strings and all the powerful things you can do with them. In this lesson, we are going to learn about numbers and math operations in Python. Python is very good at mathematics. You can use it as a simple calculator, but it can also handle very complex calculations. We will start from the basics. Let's open the terminal and go into our working directory. Let's create a new file for this lesson. Let's name it math.py. Press I to switch to the insert mode. Then let's start with basic math operations. Press escape, save. Then let's run the file using Python 3 space math.py. You can see the results. 10 plus 5 gives 15. That is addition. 10 minus 5 gives 5. That is subtraction. 10 times 5 gives 50. That is multiplication. Also, 10 divided by 5 gives 2.0. That is division. Now, notice something about the division results. We divided 10 by 5 and the answer is 2. But Python printed 2.0, not 2. Why is this? The reason is that in Python, division always gives a float, that is a number with a decimal point, even when the result is a whole number. So 10 divided by 5 gives 2.0, not 2. This is very important to remember. Now, let's learn some more math operations that are very useful in programming. The first one is called floor division. Floor division divides two numbers and gives you only the whole number part of the results, dropping anything after the decimal. The symbol for floor division is /. Let's update the math.py file. Then let's save. Let's run the file. You can see that 10 divided by 3 gives 3.333333. That is regular division with the decimal. But 10 with floor division, which is 10//3, gives 3. That is floor division, which drops the decimal and keeps only the whole number. So floor division is useful when you want a whole number result from a division. The next operation is called the modulo operation. The modulo operation divides two numbers and gives you the remainder. That is, what is left over after the division. The symbol for modulo is the percentage sign. Let me show you how it works. Save. Let's run the file. You can see that 10 modulo 3 gives 1 because 3 goes into 10 3 times. That is 3 times 3 is equal to 9 and 1 is left over. Hence, 10 modulo 3 gives 1. The next one, 10 modulo 5 gives 0 because 5 goes into 10 exactly 2 times. That is 5 times 2 is equal to 10 with nothing left over. Hence, 10 modulo 5 gives 0. Also, 10 modulo 7 gives 3 because 7 goes into 10 once. That is 7 times 1 is equal to 7 and 3 is left over. Hence, 10 modulo 7 gives 3. The modulo operation is more useful than it looks. For example, if you want to check whether a number is even or odd, you use modulo. If a number divided by 2 gives a remainder of 0, it is even. If it gives a remainder of 1, it is odd. We use this in a later lesson when we learn about conditional statements. The next operation is exponentiation, which means raising a number to a power. The symbol for exponentiation is double star, that is 2 asterisks. For example, 2 raised to power 3 means 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So let's practice that. Save. Let's run the file. You can see that 2 raised to power 3 gives 8 because 2 times 2 times 2 is equal to 8. Also, 5 raised to power 2 gives 25 because 5 times 5 is equal to 25. Also, 10 raised to power 4 gives 10,000 because 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 is equal to 10,000. Now, let's talk about the order of operations in Python. If you have a calculation with more than one operation, Python follows the same rule you learned in mathematics at school, which is BODMAS. The order is bracket first, then exponential, then division and multiplication, then addition and subtraction. Let me show you why this matters. Let's update the file. You can see that we have almost the same expression. The difference is that the second one has 2 plus 3 inside a bracket. So save, then run the file. You can see the first one, which is 2 plus 3 times 4 gives 14 because Python first does the multiplication, which is 3 times 4, which is equal to 12. Then the addition, which is 2 plus 12, which is equal to 14. But the second one, which is open bracket 2 plus 3 close bracket times 4, gives 20, because Python first does what is inside the brackets, which is 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. Then the multiplication, which is 5 times 4 is equal to 20. So brackets are very powerful. They allow you to control the order in which Python calculates things. Now, let's talk about using variables in math operations. In real programs, you will almost never write raw numbers like 10 plus 5. You will store numbers in variables and then perform operations on those variables. Let me show you. Let's update the file. Press escape, save. Let's run the file. You can see that price per item gives 5,000, quantity gives 3, and total cost gives 15,000. This is much more like real world programming. You store your values in variables, perform calculations, store the results in another variable, and then print it. Notice that we used F strings to display the results clearly. This makes the output easy to read. Now, let's learn about something very useful called augmented assignment operators. These are shortcuts for updating the value of a variable using a math operation. Let me explain. If you have a variable called score and you want to add 10 to it, the long way to do it is this. This means take the current value of score, add 10 to it, and store the result back into score. Running the file, you see the expected results of the score value. But Python gives us a shortcut. Instead of writing score is equal to score plus 10, we can simply write score plus equal to 10. This does the same thing, but it is shorter and cleaner. Let me show you all the augmented assignment operators. Press escape, save, run the file. You can see how the value of score is being updated step by step. These operators, that is the plus is equal to, minus is equal to, star is equal to, floor division is equal to, they are shortcuts that update a variable's value using a math operation. You will use them very often in programming. Now, let's learn about two built-in Python commands that are very useful when working with numbers. The first is ABS, which gives you the absolute value of a number. The absolute value is always a positive number, regardless of whether the original number was positive or negative. The second is round, which rounds a float to a specific number of decimal places. Let me show you both. Press escape, then save. Run the file. You can see that the ABS open bracket minus 50 gives 50. The negative sign is removed. Also, ABS 50 gives 50. It is already positive, so nothing changes. Round open brackets 3.14159, 2 gives 3.14. That is rounded to 2 decimal places. Round 3.14159, 4 gives 3.1416, which rounded to 4 decimal places. The second number inside the round tells Python how many decimal places to keep. Now, let's talk about something important, which is mixing integers and floats. If you perform a math operation between an integer and a float, Python always gives you a float as the result. Let me show you. Press escape, then save. Let's run the file. You can see that 10 plus 5 gives 15 and its type is int. 10 plus 5.0 gives 15.0 and its type is float. 10 times 2 gives 20 and its type is int. 10 times 2.0 gives 20.0 and its type is float. So, whenever you mix an integer and a float in a calculation, the result is always a float. This is something to be aware of as you write more programs. Now, let's create a final practice file that puts everything together. Let's create a new file called calculator.py. Press I to switch to the insert mode and let's write some codes. Press escape, then save. Run the file. You can see all the results displayed clearly with labels. This is how you combine everything you've learned into one clean program. Now, let's push everything to the GitHub. Let's go and check the GitHub. You can see that our new files have appeared in the repository.